Hey everyone, welcome back to an amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I am so excited to bring you our guest today. And she is coming from all the way in South Africa. I believe I have that correct. And it's like 11 o'clock at night when we're recording this show for her. And so I'm really grateful for her showing up and doing what brave entrepreneurs do, which is make it happen. And just in case you're new to me, I am a brand business and brave strategist, helping entrepreneurs worldwide truly catapult who they are as a brand, as well as maximize their profit enhancement and strategies to make money and live a life full of freedom. And for me, what's so important to me is freedom of location. I can work my business anywhere, and freedom of time and money. And that's so I can do more with my friends and family and children. And that's what's important. So if that's about what you're about, then I think you're going to love this show. So I'm going to bring on our guest. Let me click this over here. Hello, Niyc Pidgeon. How are you? I'm so excited you're here.
I'm great. I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me. It's my absolute pleasure.
Yes, of course. And I'm just really, I feel so blessed that we've connected. However we got connected, I don't even know what happened, but the universe has brought us together. So this is really powerful. And I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about you and what your business is all about, your entrepreneur journey, and how you got to where you are.
Of course, of course. So I am by trade a positive psychologist, a success coach for female entrepreneurs. So I help female entrepreneurs to build and scale their online coaching businesses whilst experiencing the joy of life at the same time. It's so easy to find that gets lost along the way.
Yes.
And more recently, I've also become a best-selling author with my first book, Now Is Your Chance, which just come out with Hay House.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's a huge achievement alone, right? So very good. And so tell us a little more. This is like the success of who you are and what you've put all the hard work into. What was it like? How long have you been in business, and what was it like at the beginning?
I've been in business now it always makes me feel old. I've been in business for around about 6 years now since I graduated from my master's degree. Yeah. But it's only been I'd say about the past 2.5 years where I've really experienced the huge level of success that I've always desired. So that means that about 50% of the time was extreme struggle.
Right.
And it,
excruciating.
Yeah, it was a time where, if I look back, it was almost like my market research. It was when I was trying things, I was testing things, I was doing a whole load of stuff wrong. And I wasn't really in a mindset where I was asking for help. I was just trying to do everything on my own, and it didn't really work for a long time.
That's right. Lesson number one. And I think you make such a great point here is that, from the outside looking in, it looks like you've arrived, right? And of course it happened easy for you, and it happened, smoothly, and there's no bumps in the road. And yet the truth is it's hard work, and it is, I think you're right. It's market research, it's testing, it's the experiment that we put ourselves in. The lab or the testing tube that I think entrepreneurship's all about. And so how did you stay positive? How did you stay the course? Because I think there's people listening that are going like, how many years do I have to put up with this? Or how long do I have to stick it out? What were some of your tools and ways to deal with that?
For sure. It's a great reflection as well, because they say that there's this overnight success that happens, but it's actually known to take 10 years to create that overnight success. And that's totally been my experience, because before that 6 years in business, I did 5 years at university. Mm-hmm. So I've actually been on this path for more than a decade now.
Right.
And how I stayed positive, I think there's actually an important differentiation to make between staying positive on the outside and actually honoring the journey and honoring the process at the same time.
Right.
So I went through this experience in 2014 when I had a lot of personal trauma and healing that I was working with, and trying to deal with something that's so challenging within yourself while you're running a business can be incredibly difficult. Now, I was showing up as a positive psychologist, doing these motivational talks and helping people. And I really didn't feel positive on the inside. So there's a lot to be said for making sure that you're not forcing yourself to feel positive all of the time. And you understand that it's actually okay to have a bad day. So I am huge on managing your state and being able to change your state and not complaining and blaming. So the things that I use are things like morning rituals, gratitude practices, and making sure that I move my body and work out every day. But sometimes you've also got to acknowledge the place and space that you're in and say, why is this coming up for me? What is it that's hard? Is it something I'm scared of? What does this mean? We know that it's darkest before the dawn, and that when you're in that space, there's something magical and amazing about to happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes by forcing, we don't actually allow ourselves to experience that.
Right. You know, this is so interesting. And I am always, when I do these podcasts and in these interviews, I don't know why I'm so surprised still, because I think it's just the miracle inside of doing the shows is that this is exactly what I felt today. And so every time I get on these shows, I don't know what the conversation is going to be. I certainly am open to like the unfolding. And the fact that you just really brought this forward is, I think, so important for people to get. Literally 10 minutes before I got on this call with you, I was changing my state because I woke up with a day that had like 5 fires to put out. A good friend of mine had a personal situation that was all of a sudden an emergency situation, and they're handling it. But my concern, my worry, things are going on underneath all of the gotta do business as usual conversation. And I've got group coaching calls to handle, and I've got podcast to record, and I've got to be all positive. And so I think it's so important that we get this message to not only just human beings in general, and yet entrepreneurs, I think, have that extra level of self-mastery and self-management that you're talking about. It's like being able to shift your state and being able to, maybe compartmentalize is sometimes what I call it. Not to ignore it, not to shove it, not to like be in the emotion or the feeling, because that can, bite you in the butt for sure. But being able to manage that, I think, is so brilliant, and choose in the moment, right? Like, how am I going to be and how I'm going to show up? And yet, right, we show up to these things going, oh yeah, sure, my life's all perfect and positive, yet it's kind of falling apart over here. And, so it's just ironic that we are talking about this right now, because this is the kind of day I had.
It was a gift that you were ready and willing to receive.
It's so good. I mean, I was sitting there like, man, I don't think I really want to do this recording today. I went through all of it. Like, my head was spinning. And then, of course, I'm like, no, it's going to be perfect. And sure enough, it is. So I think this is number one, powerful that you are willing to not only share that. I would love it if you're willing. What are some of the struggles? I know you said you had a hard time and there were a lot of personal things going on. Or are you willing to share what some of those were?
Of course, yeah. I'm more than happy to share, because through my experience of when I have shared, even when I've been scared, it's helped so many people.
Me too.
So it's really, and it's about getting out of your own way and making sure the message is heard, rather than your kind of, it's almost like, where does the barrier of self-sacrifice and of self-indulgence lie? So in 2014, I had what now, looking back, was the hardest, most challenging year of my life. Yeah. It started when I cut my eye open with a contact lens, and I got a flesh-eating bug in my eye.
Wow.
And it's a bug that can actually make you go blind within a week. So it was something that was incredibly traumatic, incredibly scary, and it meant that I couldn't work. So for me, that's a real type A, and I was always focused on hustling, on going to the gym all of the time, doing business all of the time. I had to literally stop, and it was the universe just saying, Nick, there's something that you've got to do, there's work that you've got to do, so you just need to take a pause here. And looking back, that was really a freak accident with my eye was what really started to allow me to see the way that I've been living. So to kind of go alongside that, my dad had a triple heart bypass and a heart valve replacement. My partner, I found out that we'd been together over the course of 10 years, found out that he'd been unfaithful. I was struggling with exhaustion and adrenal fatigue, and all of this was going on. And then I had a horrendous flashback and started having nightmares and hallucinations, which brought up for me an experience from years before when I'd been locked in a taxi on holiday in Spain and I'd actually been raped.
Oh, wow.
So I came back to this space of needing to not repress anymore. Like you said, I'd compartmentalized it, but so much so that I'd almost forgotten inside of my conscious self that even happened. So I went to counseling. I did the deep healing work, my spiritual practice, my mindset practice, and came out of the other side a bigger, better, happier, stronger, more successful version of me. And it really gives me faith in the human spirit. And it helps me see that light and that strength in every other woman that I now serve as well.
Wow. And thank you for sharing that. Truly, I didn't know it went that far, but I think, you're giving yourself permission to share it. And I believe that is the sign of a brave master, is to be vulnerable and to be able to share the story. And I know from firsthand experience, when I started sharing my stories as well, it was the moment it made the difference, right? For me and for others, more importantly. And so thank you for that as well. And I think the message that can be heard here is that it's like when we take responsibility for where we are and what's showing up and being able to reflect. It's ugly when we're in it, but clearly, finding help, asking for help, getting outside of that, is now what's serving you in how you serve others, right? It gives permission to other women and other individuals out there watching and listening. So thank you for being brave about that. And certainly I wouldn't wish any of that on anyone, but we all have our stuff and we all have our ugly moments, and for us to like overcome them and like win in spite of them, I think is so great. So thank you for that. And
thank you for allowing me to share it.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm like, you're the brave one, so it's great. But so we'll shift gears a little bit here. I would probably surmise that that's one of your bravest moments, but is there something just inside of the entrepreneurial game that you've played that has been another brave moment where you've really had to step in and lean in and take on leadership at a whole nother level? What has that been like for you?
I mean, sharing your story is always going to be something that brings a level of vulnerability, and you see that all of the time, people get invisible and not being able to show up on Facebook, for example, in the way they want to, or stand on stage and speak. So that definitely brings with it that fear and that need for courage and bravery. I'd say that there's there's times where I've taken risks where I've needed to be brave in business, and there's times where I felt more responsibility where I've needed to be brave. So in the risk-taking side of things, that was very much in the early stages of the business where I'd started to travel alone, and I'd started to take my business location independent, and I'd decided to work with a coach, and I'd really gone all in with these big life decisions that I'd been making, moving from the UK to Australia. I then lived in Los Angeles for 2 years. Now I'm in Cape Town. So all of those things, like, people look at them and they say that's glamorous and that's amazing, but you don't necessarily see what it actually takes to do those things.
Right.
To have the commitment to run programs and services and products and do it when you're on the move as well. So that is definitely an area where I feel like I've taken risk and been brave. And more recently, since the business has grown and we've developed our staffing so much more, there's an added responsibility that requires you to be a bigger version of you as an entrepreneur and a leader. Because not only are you creating income for yourself, not only are you reinvesting income in a business and a mission and a dream and a vision, but you've now got 5, 10, however many other employees
and their lives.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, so we have 7 or 8 of us in the business, and I have to think about, right, okay, so what's their vision? What is it that I'm supporting them with? How can I help them grow? Like, what actually needs to be done in the business in terms of revenue? And it's like this huge machine and this organism that really requires you to be brave with your decision making. And on the positive side and also on the negative side as well, sometimes the bravest things aren't the happy things, they're not the vision things. They're actually those decisions that are not so nice to make, and you've got to be braver to make those when it really counts.
You know, it's so great that you shared that. I think, you know, I always say to myself, especially, but it's like, you know, Jena, you got to be the real business owner. You got to step into CEO. You've got to step into the leadership in order for it to grow or to expand, because no one else will, you know, care about it as much as I do. And so much of that time is bringing help on, right? And to grow and to meet the mission that you have, to help 1 million, you know, women out there. It takes a village, right? It takes people. And I think, you know, when we decide to do that faster and more expedient and be brave, you know, in more of that fashion, then the changes and the reach that we have can happen, you know, much more efficiently and faster as well. And so it's interesting. A conversation I was having yesterday was that brave matters. I was like, I've never said that before. And I was like, you know, being a CEO, being a leader, being the entrepreneur, and being driven to, you know, to make the success happen or to help as many people as possible, all those things are great. But it's like, if we really don't take an inventory of brave, and when are we and when are we not, and when are we letting the uncomfortable take us over, and when are we not making decisions, like all those things, I just think is like a true sign of that brave entrepreneur. And clearly, you know, you've got that. You've got that handled. And so thank you for sharing that, because not everybody's at that stage. Maybe they're hiring a VA, maybe they're, you know, starting somewhere as far as team. Did you start small as well?
Yeah, I remember it's actually such a huge shift in your business when you move from solopreneur to +1, and having that support. +1. Even just having someone to talk to is amazing.
I know. Oh my gosh, I love my team meeting, right?
I used to sit, because I've worked from home for a lot of years, and I used to sit in the house, and I must have been going slowly insane. So when I brought my first, it was a in-person PA at the time. It was a fantastic upward spiral for the business. And I then brought a VA on and grew the team from there with the team that we've got. We do have some full-time staff, but we also have staff that are part-time or just work on projects, because I really love to balance people's strengths. So that's been a real progression. It's been something that's been very enjoyable. But it's also been challenging, because I'm always committed to being my best and to not shying away from conflict. But there's definitely been some challenging times, and when I had to fire my first staff member, oh my goodness.
Yeah, painful.
Yeah, very painful.
Me too.
But, yeah.
And she was like a friend for 13 years. I'm like, oh, I have to let this person, you know, go. And it was actually best for her too. She was, she was okay. But yeah, you know, and I would you say, or I just kind of want to see what you think about this, but I found that the more I get brave, like I always say brave daily, but the more I get brave, it gets a little easier to make those harder decisions. So so I think that's where some of the acceleration occurs in business, is like, how fast are you getting brave? How fast are you making hard decisions? So are you finding that as well?
I love that concept. I really love it. So it's like, be brave, be bold. And it's this idea that we need to continually stretch ourselves.
Right.
And if we're not growing, then we're dying. So what is it that's actually stretching us? And what is it that we can consciously choose to move into that stretch so that we expand as people? Because yes, it's about the success that we create. Everybody loves to celebrate the success. But what's even better is who you become. Right. Because you become that brave person that you realize a year or 2 years or however many months down the line, actually that thing would have bothered me not so long ago, and it doesn't bother me anymore.
Right.
I don't react. I'm able to navigate with ease. And it's really amazing when you feel that inside of yourself and you just find that peace and that calm and that knowing that you can make these decisions, which might have been emotional and scary in the past.
Right.
You're almost like raising yourself up to your next level.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you are like so on my page. You're right up my alley there. And you know, it's funny. I was in midst of my kind of chaotic day. The strategy that I've found to help is to pause. Like when I'm in reaction or I'm feeling emotional about something that was, you know, said or emailed or whatever, then stop. Like you don't have to answer right away. You know, like pause and be able to respond appropriately or peacefully versus like in reaction. And that took a long time and a lot of personal development mindset. And so I'm curious how you, you know, how you approach, whether it's fear or, you know, doubts or the uncomfortable, or just really, you know, noticing when you are in reaction or non-reaction and how you go forward.
Yeah, with reaction, it's always your response that is the thing that makes the difference. So it's not actually ever our experience or our circumstance or a situation that is doing something to us or is harmful or hard. It's your perspective and the way that you choose to frame it inside of your mindset. So pausing is an absolutely great strategy. And I love really as well, like when you have those things that are maybe like prompting you to react, I always like to remind myself to show up and ask myself, how can I actually show up as the best version of me in this situation? Because it's easy for everybody to show up as their best selves when life is easy. But what really makes a difference is when things are challenging, and also when you're not on show, when you're in a normal situation and the thing is, you never know who is watching. You never know who is looking to you as a role model, whether it's someone in your family, someone that is just passing you in the street. You've always got a responsibility, I believe, to show up as your best self, because if you want to be a leader, you need to be a leader in every single thing that you do. And that means being the best version of you. And there's been times where I felt that things were challenging. I mean, waiting for my American visa to come through. Oh my goodness. I had
no reaction there.
I was literally, it was, I swear I had no conversation for about a year other than my book and my visa. So it was one of those things that really challenged me to show up as my best self and change the storytelling inside of my mindset. So rather than being like, I'm waiting for my visa and I'm frustrated, it was, I'm really excited for what possibilities and doors this is going to open, and going into a place where you can have a transitionary facilitation tool. So for me, it's music and gratitude. So I'll play some music, I'll write down everything that I'm grateful for, and in an instant, I'm literally like, I love my life. I'm so grateful for everything, and that thing that I was thinking about doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I was doing that today. I didn't play music, but I went and said, okay, what are 10 things I appreciate right now? Like, what do I like? What's good in my life versus focus? I think it's about the mindset and the focus. You know, what are we putting our focus on? And sometimes it's just a matter of experiencing it, but I always go back to personal responsibility about it. Meaning, I love what you just said, and I 100% agree. It's not out there. It's not the circumstance or the thing that's happening that's doing it to me. It's clearly how we're holding it or perceiving it. So I love that, and thank you for sharing your tip on that, because I think people, gosh, I mean, I'm on a mission to go like, take personal responsibility. I came from an abusive childhood, you know, situation. My parents are divorced. I moved out at 14. I mean, I could go on and on and on, you know, of all these like hardships. And it was interesting. I went to lunch with a friend Sunday and just said, what's the difference between someone that makes it and succeeds and someone that doesn't? And we simply said action and choice. It's clearly not your circumstance or what's going on outside of you. And you clearly have proven that, especially with the list of hardships you shared, how differently you could have responded, how differently, you could have shown up as leadership in that. And I think it's really great that you're reminding us it's like how you act and be and behave always, not just in show, right? Not just out in the public. And not to say we're all perfect and we don't cry and get upset and all those things, but I think it is something to take responsibility for. So clearly, it's powerful that that's the message you're bringing to the world. And so what would you say is, it's kind of like, what is your mission? What do you want to change in the world? And how do you do that? Like I just want to learn a little bit more about your business and how your vehicle that you're using to do so.
Yeah. So for me, the most important thing is for me to support other women in finding their joy, in finding that sense of power within themselves and being able to create unstoppable success, both within themselves and within their businesses. So I see so much hope and optimism, which is great, but also so much fear and nervousness. And I really see entrepreneurship as a vehicle. That is the vehicle for me. Entrepreneurship is the vehicle within which women can thrive. They can feel empowered, they can create something, they can grow themselves, and they can connect with their joy again. So for me, it's just this amazing thing, which makes so much sense, but other people are unsure of. So it's being the bridge to that new level of experience of our existing world.
Yeah, I love it. And so I love it. It's like right on. Let's help people crush it, right? And so what do you say to someone that just says, I can't do it?
Well, absolutely look around you and see just how many people can know that anything is possible. I think one of the things that's important to remember is that the days that we are living, we're never going to get them back. And when you remind yourself of that, it really gives you the importance on the opportunity of today. Like I say, focus on your opportunities, not on your obstacles, and look for where your next step is. You don't have to have it all figured out. And I think some of the I can't do this comes from I can't see, I don't know how I can get from here where I am to over here where this person that I look up to is. Right. And you never have to know the whole of the way. You just have to take the next positive step. Yeah.
I love that. And I would gather, is that communicated or is that conversation inside your book? What's your book about?
Yeah. So the book's about happiness. It's a 30-day guide to living your happiest life using positive psychology. And that is the science of success, of happiness, of how we can be the best that we can be. So the book's very much about understanding that all of our experience is conspiring towards our growth. Right. So it's about assimilating the lessons from the bad times as well as taking action in the positive, so that you can do something super practical and easy every single day, so that at the end of the 30 days, you've experienced this huge shift.
Yeah. You're actually happy. You chose to be happy. Choose happy. I love it. And we'll make sure, I know that's on your website, right? You can find the link to the book. Yeah. So we'll make sure that's shared as well. And I just think, we just need more of you. We just need more people that are on that mission to really shift people's perspective of what's possible. I am with you. I am in that mission as well. And that's why I'm so glad we're on this show together, being able to spread that word even bigger. So keep doing you and keep doing what you're up to. I think it's so powerful and certainly needed in the world as well. And so I wonder for you, I wanted to find out, what does brave mean to you? What would you define it as?
So brave means to me consciously choosing and deciding to move beyond what feels comfortable for you, and knowing that when you do that, you will always be afforded with something that is magical, miraculous, and
I love it
on the other side.
Yes, I love it. Yes, I love asking that question because the answers are always correct. but they're always different, right? They're always unique. And I really appreciate that perspective because I live that every day, and it's like so powerful that you shared that as well. And so as we're kind of closing out, I want to first of all make sure everyone can connect with you. What's the best way that people can connect?
So on all social media channels, Niyc Pidgeon.
Okay.
The website's nickpidgeon.com. So across, it's dead easy. Instagram, Facebook, all the same.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Niyc.
Niyc.
Yeah. So unique. I love it. And so thank you for that as well. And I know you said you had something complimentary that might give some people a boost, or what's the link for that as well? And tell us a little bit more.
So the link is 35kinthirty5days.com, and it's a free masterclass training which shares part of my journey where in the first month of my business I generated 35k in 35 days. So it's the exact system that I'm sharing to make that possible. That
is so cool. I might have to check that out. I'm always learning, right? I'm always curious how other people do it. And there's always a lesson inside of it. So thanks for sharing that. And we'll make sure that it's in the show notes. So, and that's 35 with a number, right? Everybody needs to type in the 35.
Yeah, 35.
Yeah. So as we close here, I always like to ask this question. So if this was your last interview, if this was your last chance to say something to the world, and that was the last word that they were going to hear, what would that message be?
That beautiful flowers blossom in adversity. So own your journey and continue to grow, because you will flourish and thrive.
Awesome. I love it. Love, love, love. So thank you so much for being here. I love meeting you, and I love sharing you with our audience at large. And I just really appreciate what you're up to for real. So keep doing what you're doing, and stay brave. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. And to those listening and watching, I always remind you as we close out that every day is a choice, and to go get your brave on. So brave daily, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.